Hello everyone, I Anu Dhariwal welcome you all to the class. Children, as you know, we are discussing the chapter 3 questions from your NCERT book Honeycomb. In the last session, we discussed about the king and his 3 questions which the king is seeking the answers to. So moving ahead with the story, let's move to the second question. In their answers to the second question, some said the people most necessary to the king were his counselors. The second question, children, what was the second question? The second question was, which people should he listen to? So, in answer to his second question, people said that the people most necessary to the king were his counselors. Others said the priest. So some said the counselors are the most important person and others said the priests are the most important person. A few others chose the doctors and yet others said that his soldiers were the most necessary. So again, for the second question also, everyone was giving a different answer. To the third question. Now what was the third question? The third question was, what is the most important thing for him to do? Answer to this question, people said science. Others chose fighting and yet other religious worship. The most important thing was science, others chose fighting and yet others religious worship. As the answers to his questions were so different, the king was not satisfied and gave no reward. Instead, he decided to seek the advice of a certain hermit. Now, what is a hermit? A hermit is a person who lives alone and leads a simple life, who was widely known for his wisdom. The king decided to seek advice from a certain hermit who was widely known for his wisdom. The hermit lived in a wood which he never left. When we are saying wood, children, it doesn't mean the wood that you are thinking. Wood here refers to a small forest. So, the hermit lived in a wood which he never left. He saw no one but simple people, and so the king put on ordinary clothes. Before he reached the hermit's hut, the king left his horse with his bodyguard and went on alone. So, to visit the hermit, the king put on some ordinary clothes, and before he could reach the hermit's hut, the king left his horse and all his bodyguard and went on alone. As the king came near the hermit's hut, he saw the hermit digging the ground in front of his hut. He greeted the king and continued digging. So, what did the hermit do? On seeing the king, he greeted him and again continued digging. The hermit was old and weak, and as he worked, he breathed heavily. So, he was very old and he was tired. So, he was breathing very heavily. The king went up to the hermit and said, I have come to you, wise hermit, to ask you to answer 3 questions. Question number 1, how can I learn to do the right thing at the right time? Question number 2, who are the people I need most? And question number 3, and what affairs are the most important? The hermit listened to the king but did not speak. He went on digging. You are tired, said the king. Let me take the spade and work in your place. You can see the spade in the hand of the hermit. Here, this is the spade that the hermit is holding. We use it to dig the ground. So the king said, you are tired. Let me take the spade and work in your place. Thanks, said the hermit, giving the king his spade. Then he sat down on the ground. He gave the king his spade. He said thanks and then he sat down on the ground. When the king had dug 2 beds, he stopped and repeated his question. Now, when the king was also tired, he has dug 2 beds. He stopped and repeated his questions again. The hermit gave no answer but stood up, stretching out his hand for the spade and said, "Now you rest and let me work." So the hermit did not give any answer to his questions, but instead he said that, "Give me the spade, now you rest and let me work." But the king did not give him the spade and continued to dig. 1 hour passed, then another. The sun went down behind the trees, and at last the king stuck the spade into the ground and said, So he stuck the spade into the ground and said, "I came to you, wise men, for an answer to my questions. If you can give me no answer, tell me so, and I will return home." So he said to the hermit, "When an hour has passed, then another, the sun went down behind the trees. It was already late in the evening. The king was tired. He said to the wise men, "I came here for the answers to my question. If you can give me no answer, tell me, and I will return home." "Here comes someone running," said the hermit. Now the hermit saw someone coming towards them running. This is it for today, children. The second part of the story will be continued in the next session.